You are listening to the Joe on Joe podcast, the only podcast where Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky. And with me this week is a good friend of mine, a very talented individual, Mr. Dekker Dreyer. Dekker, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me.
Dekker is a writer and director out here in Los Angeles. He's the CCO of Clever Fox Studios. Tell me a little bit about Clever Fox.
Clever Fox is a production company that we have. It's we call it an immersive studio. And what that means is that we make all kinds of like cool VR stuff. So original series, films, documentaries, music videos, all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Awesome. And recently you worked on, I think, what people would see publicly is the Star Wars VR. Is that correct?
Yeah, we made a pretty cool thing for Star Wars. It was for the Disney park. They were doing the groundbreaking for the new like park world.
Yeah,
and we did this crazy VR thing where we made it look like all of the vehicles from the Empire were actually building the park, so that was kind of rad.
It was very rad. I had actually seen it before I knew that you had anything to do with it, and I don't have a VR machine myself, but I was like, this would be amazing. It was like the AT-ATs were carrying in equipment, and the shuttles were dropping off stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And the droids were there.
That was actually kind of cool. We had like we actually had BB-8 there with us.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we had like real stormtroopers and a lot of those other things. We collaborated with Lucasfilm and actually got the real stuff and everything. It was really cool.
That's so cool. Dekker also, I know Dekker from working on a little project out here called Movie Cult.
Yeah, man, Movie Cult.
Which is
check
so
that out
fun.
on YouTube. We've still got episodes up there. Just check out Movie Cult. And that was this crazy project that Joe and I did. It was kind of a live show that I used to do out here. And then, we turned it into like this vodcast thing where, basically we would just riff on a whole bunch of clips of movies. So every episode was about 40 minutes long, and it was just clip after clip of these bizarre movies that were all tied with like one theme, right? So we would do like Sea of Terror or VHS Monsters. Really, really rad show.
I think bizarre is the appropriate word to use. Slithis. May I present Slithis as evidence A?
I have a statue of Slithis now.
I know.
Anybody who's listening to this is going to be, what, Slithis? What season was he on of G.I. Joe?
Slithis is not G.I. Joe, but Slithis, I feel like Slithis would have fit in well in Cobra La.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. So Google Slithis, everyone, and then just preemptively, you're welcome. From Dekker and myself.
I feel like there's a big buildup on the Joe on Joe podcast for Cobra La. I feel like this is this recurring theme.
Well, guess what? What we're gonna do? I'm gonna put it out there right now. What we're doing for the movie is we're getting everyone who's ever a guest on the show in one room together, and we're all gonna watch. We're gonna mic the room up professionally, and so you're invited,
dude. I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm
so when we get to that point, we're gonna do a big fat hour and a half Joe on Joe with everyone who is a guest that can make it. Everyone on mic.
Well, it's going to have to be longer because then we're going to have to talk about the continuity with the IDW comics and the Transformers crossovers.
It could be a 3-hour extravaganza.
I don't know if the audience can handle this, but there's a tie-in with Unicron. Cobra La ties in with Unicron.
Cobra La ties in with Unicron?
In the comic continuity, yeah.
Tell me.
So in the IDW series, apparently Cobra La had staved off Unicron from the planet Earth at one point in time.
What?
They made a bargain with him. And Unicron said, okay, for 1,000 years or whatever, I'm going to go away. You guys are going to go hide. I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to enslave everybody but you. So,
what?
Yeah, don't want to spoil the storyline, but
oh my god,
yeah,
I didn't
really,
know that.
really cool stuff.
It's really cool. I did not know. I know they're doing the Hasbro crossover now, but I did not know they went that deep with that.
Yeah, it was from a couple of years ago.
That's fantastic.
Maybe 5-6 years ago.
Okay, we're going to research that and get into. This is what I love is. I don't do a ton of research for the show, but I know a fair amount, but I don't know everything. And so I love every week I seem to learn something more either by watching the show or talking with people like yourself. It's great. You can find Dekker on Instagram at Dekker Dreyer, Dekker Dryer. And if you're so inclined, you can find me on Instagram at Joe and Joe Pod. You can send me an email, joeandjoepod@gmail.com. And what's really helpful, if you're listening through iTunes, you want to go on iTunes and leave me a review. That helps very much in getting the word out there. iTunes looks at the reviews for sharing it and promoting it. They see which podcast people are listening to and get on the trending podcast and we grow the word of Joe. G.I. Joe, Dekker, you, what's the connection?
Yeah, G.I. Joe was kind of like a weird guilty pleasure for me. I didn't grow up in a family that was super like either military or jingoistic or, God, what's the best way to describe it? They're the kind of people that McCarthy would have rounded up, probably. They're
You grew up in a communist
I wasn't
farm.
allowed to.
Got it. Where did you grow up?
I grew up. I grew up in a lot of different places, but I spent a lot of time down in Florida. Both of my folks are from the Northeast, but like my grandparents kind of settled down there, and my family kind of came a little bit after, and they actually had a traveling puppet show for a while.
What?
Yeah, like, so if you ever remember, like in school when they would do like the assembly program and there was like some weird performance that would happen.
Yeah.
So like my parents did the traveling show. We did like a Jack and the Beanstalk with like gigantic marionettes and all that kind of crazy stuff. So
That's
we were
amazing.
all over the place.
Is there video of this?
I don't think video existed when that was
Is there 8mm film of this?
like in some
Super
dusty old basement
Yeah.
that Nick Cage is going to dig up. Yeah.
Oh my God. and he calls over what's his name? George C. Scott, and they both sit in the room and they go, "No."
Oh, dude, it was wild times. I mean, they had a van, and we were like literally on the road like a band. I think I might have been 1.5, 2 years old, and it was a little bit disconcerting because these were like humanoid marionettes, right?
Sure, yeah.
And they were like 4 feet tall, so I thought that they were like alive.
Yeah, it's Twilight Zone-y.
It was kind of poltergeist. Yeah, it was a
Holy
little,
cows.
it was a little freaky.
So when did you discover G.I. Joe then?
So I discovered G.I. Joe through friends of mine that were super into it. They had like the action figures and stuff.
Yeah.
I could never get the action figures. My parents were always more like, oh, if you're going to indulge in like horrible violence, you have to indulge in fantasy violence. So I was more of a He-Man kid,
He-Man,
like
awesome.
Yeah, He-Man, anything that was a little bit sci-fi. I mean, later on it was like Wheeled Warriors. I'd do that kind of thing, but
JC and the Wheeled Warriors?
JC and the Wheeled Warriors, man. Mask,
Mask
was
was awesome.
But Mask was also a little paramilitary, so it was a little frowned upon.
A little more civilian though. I mean,
yeah,
they
it was-
operated out of a gas station.
It was a little more Knight Rider than straight up like Chain of Command.
Definitely more Knight Rider. Yeah.
So for me, G.I. Joe was just something that I would kind of like sneak in and watch, in between Transformers, and I ended up, really, really, getting into watching it because it wasn't quite as weird as Silverhawks, which was also, I think, in the same cartoon block as this when I was
Yes.
watching. It was an afternoon show. And I don't know, there was just something I dug about it when Cobra and all that kind of struck. It blew my mind. It was like it for a kid of I don't know how old I must have been, like 7, 8 years old, I guess, when this was like at its peak. That was like what I'm imagining like teenagers in the 60s taking LSD for the first time must have been. It was like, whoa, I've got to start digging a little deeper into this. I thought it was just like a like tied in with like professional wrestling kind of stuff because of Sergeant Slaughter and all that.
Yeah.
And when I saw like the crazy weird mythology that they'd built up, then I started backtracking. So I kind of started with the movie, backtracked through like the whole arc with Serpentor or Serpentor, or
Rise, Serpentor,
however you want
Rise,
to, however you want to call it, and then making my way back progressively through like reruns. So it took me probably a good year to be able to see every single episode out of chronological order.
Well, good thing they don't do too much continuity on the show.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite character when you watch it? Who did you identify with?
Funny enough,
Judging by the hair, I'm thinking of Dreadnought. Decker's got bluish hair today.
yeah,
I'm thinking Dreadnought.
No, man. Funny enough, I liked I was really really more into the villains, and I kind of dug Destro because Destro, there was some kind of like soft spot in my heart for this very competent middle manager who's just trying to keep the circus running. I mean, because the leaders kept getting crazier and crazier, and he was just diligently plugging along.
He's like, I need to make a profit. Can we just do this plan and make some money? Yeah, okay, I could see that.
I could also never quite figure out like where they all fit in terms of I mean, obviously, Cobra is a non-governmental organization, but they sure seem to have like a crap load of like barons and baronesses and all that kind of, so I could never quite figure out like what the consortium was. Yet at the same time, they have like Cockney accents and Australian accents and all kinds
They pull
of weird...
from all over.
Yeah,
really
they seem like
yeah.
they were very egalitarian. They're very like everybody can join, everybody can be part of Cobra.
They were more international than the Joe team.
They
was.
really were.
Yeah. It's not until you get to the movie where they kind of expand it, and G.I. Joe's like, oh no, we're global. Oh no, sure, you're not. Cobra was global. Cobra welcomed the Syrian refugees in. And then they put him behind the red handkerchiefs and made him Cobra Troopers. That's what Cobra was.
Well, I feel like, for a lot of places on Earth, being a Cobra Trooper was something that you would aspire to. It's like the Foreign Legion. It's like, we'll just take anybody and make something out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe was very, like, really buttoned up. And this episode that we're going to see.
I think that's the appeal. Well, real quick, I think that's the appeal of Cobra. And they've done that a little bit in the comics where they've shown, Cobra goes to these third world countries and recruits like, hey, be something, be Cobra, join us. Well,
isn't there a comic continuity where Cobra Commander was like some used car salesman?
Yeah, that's
and
the
then just
original
got
Marvel.
fed up?
Yeah, he's totally and he did Trump-like speeches. Just went around the country going like this, America sucks. Like we need to take back our country and blah blah blah. And he riled up all the dummies, and they all joined Cobra.
Which is weird because that's also like the subplot in Kevin Costner's Postman, isn't it? Wasn't there like that? Wasn't that the dude? He was like a FedEx driver or something, and then he became the warlord of half of the country because he.
Yeah, I've never sat through it because I've never been able to. As much as I do enjoy Waterworld, I can't bring myself to translate that to the Postman.
I watch it in chunks.
Yeah, but yeah, he was like a post guy. He had to carry.
Well, Kevin Costner's character wasn't he was pretending to be the postman, but there was a warlord.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, before the apocalypse, I was a nobody. I drove a bread truck.
And he wore brown shorts and a brown shirt.
Yeah, it's like then all of a sudden he just decided, government's fallen, screw it, I'm going to take over Oregon.
That's so fun. Well, listen, UPS is so organized, they probably could.
He was very efficient.
They don't make left turns. So that's probably every mission he went on to be like, I'm going to get there 3 minutes faster than any other police because I will only make right turns and never get caught at a light.
This is so far off tangent, but I feel like I have to share it with people. There was a meme that I saw about
all
UPS.
about tangents.
There was a UPS meme, which was rare in and of itself, right? Mm-hmm. But it was like it was a recruiting meme, fake, and the dude is standing there and he goes, "Hey kids, did you ever ring the doorbell and run away when you were a kid? Well, we're recruiting," and had a big UPS logo on it. And it just struck me as so effing true.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get another package to my house ever again. They're going to hear this and everything's going to be bashed up.
Well, it can't be worse than sometimes it is now. Okay, so today's episode of Joe on Joe is we're going to be watching Battle for the Train of Gold. Now, Deck, you had some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've seen it before. Actually, I've seen it twice before. I saw it once when G.I. Joe did it. I saw it once when it was a James Bond movie called Goldfinger. If you guys aren't familiar with this episode, it's the one where G.I. Joe is ordered to protect Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, the PSA at the end of it is about eminent domain for cattle ranchers. You'll see how that plays in if you're following along at home. It's a very, very bizarre episode, just all the way across the board. I get where they're coming from, and this is a better plan than Cobra typically has, and they're a little bit more organized about it. It's one of the episodes that I love for Cobra just decimating G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it recently gearing up for this episode or not, Joe, but like I remember vividly, this is one of the episodes where G.I. Joe is just hands in the air going, yeah, okay. Well, all right, what are we going to do now?
The show works best when Cobra actually has a distinct plan. It tends to fall off the rails when there's a gimmick that Cobra's involved with, but they don't have an end goal because then it's just, we just got to stop the gimmick, and then Cobra runs away.
Well, you know why
the most satisfying episodes are like Cobra has a goal and they're about to achieve that goal, and then G.I. Joe swoops in and stops them, and then we're like, okay, we actually achieved something. Those are always the best.
Well,
episodes.
actually, they achieve their goal in this one. G.I. Joe stops them, at a later point, and it's kind of crazy to watch it how incredibly efficient they are. And I have a theory on why. It's because we only see Cobra Commander for like 10 seconds in this whole episode. This is a very Cobra Commander light time period.
When he's not involved, things run better. Things run much more smoothly.
That's why I'm a Destro man,
Yeah.
because I feel like this is all Destro's idea. Even though he's not in this very much either, but I kind of feel like Cobra Commander was just like he was going maybe through a depressive phase or something. He's like, Destro, I don't even care. I don't want to get out of bed.
Thank you, Cobra Commander. Yeah, that's one of those things where Commander's just like, all right, go do your thing, have fun.
I'm working on the anti-gravity beam.
Call me if someone needs to retreat, okay? I'll be there. All right. Well, listen, let's get into it. This episode is called Battle for the Train of Gold. Dekker Dreyer, thank you so much. Let's roll. Here we go. Fighting for freedom. How much did this song mean to you when you were watching these episodes? Like, was this like a bellwether of like, okay, my next half hour is going to be amazing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it really confused the hell out of me about like geopolitics because I was constantly like, you know, up on the news, right? Like my folks were really into that.
You were woke.
I was woke, and there was Iran-Contra going on at the time, and then I'm hearing that Cobra's the enemy. I thought that Cobra ran Iran. It was a very confusing time to be an 8-year-old. I'm like, Cobra Commander, Ayatollah Khamenei, whatever. You know, same guy.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I definitely could see that. And in the comics, they what was it? Trucial Abysma was like the desert country that that Larry Hama took them to all the time. So I could see an Iran connection. So this one episode's written by David Karen, whose name I do not recognize.
Me neither. Any name that's not J. Michael Straczynski on a Saturday morning cartoon is
or Paul Dini. Yeah. We've got Wild Bill, one of the show favorites, of course. He is flying over the Bureau of Engraving.
Which is funny because I thought that this was like inside of a strip mall. It's not really I think that what they meant to say was the National Mint.
Duke is in disguise. Duke is in disguise as a guard.
They're all in disguise.
Scarlet's in disguise. So basically, they got tipped off that Cobra's going to hit the engraving department. Where we print our money. Snake Eyes is in disguise with his full face mask on.
Right. So he looks like a mall cop. You know, basically Snake Eyes in his regular costume wearing a mall cop outfit.
Picture Paul Blart Mall Ninja, and that's what you've just got. But outside, not in disguise, was gung ho, just shirtless with a couple silver mirages. So everyone else goes to the trouble of going in disguise. We even got Mutt and Junkyard in disguise as regular security guards, and yet
wait,
gung ho.
This is my favorite part. The nuns. Do you see the nuns?
Oh yeah, never trust a nun. Never trust a nun because that is. Wow.
So the nuns just ripped off their faces. And I really feel like for that one, maybe this is the Zartan like Irregulars Club. Like this is
totally. So, so those nuns ripped off their fake masks.
And yelled Cobra.
Yeah, we've talked on the show before that the show they have the best. There's always someone disguised as someone. That's one of the awesome things about G.I. Joe. It's Mission Impossible to the nth degree. They ripped off their fake faces, and underneath their fake faces was the full helmet that they wear. So it's not even like a prosthetic that mimics their actual face. It was over the bandanas and everything. Like it was amazing, fantastic.
It looked like the video for Transistor from. Oh, that's too esoteric. No one's gonna get that.
Transistor? No, what's Transistor? Now I want to know. Well, the Joes who were in disguise.
It was a Lou Reed album where he's like peeling skin off of his robot face.
The Joes who were in disguise now, they just revealed themselves and they're firing back at Cobras.
They're shooting lasers through $1,000 bills.
Yeah, and Major Blood's running around up there. So you know if Major Blood's involved, this is one of the earlier scripts. Because he tended to drop off a little bit. You could also tell by the cast of Joes too, where it's Duke and Scarlet. You know, like there's no Flint.
I'm going after Major Blood.
You got it.
It's fun seeing these guys in different costumes, though. I gotta if I'm 10 years old watching this, I'm excited about it. I'm saying, where's the action figure?
The action figure that will never come.
Yeah, where's Duke as a security guard?
You could get hurt playing with firecrackers, Major.
Yeah, you could. So Duke busts in. He's got.
I think that the fundamental flaw with yelling Cobra is that you have to attack all at the same time. 3 of these guys just yelled Cobra and then went at him one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it also tips you off.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like if you all yell Cobra, it could be disorienting and you're all jumping in.
I feel like this is a moment right here that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, is this the one where it ends up like Born on the 4th of July? Because
yeah, where Duke's crippled.
Duke is crippled for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and he
becomes disillusioned.
Turns to Snake Eyes and says, "If you don't love G.I. Joe, get the hell out, because I love G.I. Joe." I think that's how this episode ends.
No, but seriously, like they just blew up a safe, and he's on the ground, and it looked like either he's going to be deaf or he's going to be crippled or he's going to be out of action for the whole episode. He legitimately went flying across the room.
He totally did. And also, though, I'll say it was pretty incompetent because he walked in and he saw Major Blood setting a bomb, and he didn't think to make sure it wasn't checked. Well,
look at this right now. They all of a sudden, Snake Eyes is just like, I'm going to shoot perfect laser beams and cut the supports for this overhanging bridge. But why didn't he just shoot the dudes?
Oh, well.
Like at first.
Yeah,
okay. Austin Powers rules. I get it.
He can get him in 3 shots. There were like 8 dudes, so he can get him in 3 shots versus 8 shots. So Duke's okay. He is not a cripple, which is always good because that's a big accessory, a wheelchair to put on a blister pack.
It's awful. It's a vehicle, man.
Yeah, well, it would totally be a vehicle. Yeah, it totally would be a vehicle. So the Cobra stole something called the A4.
It's the A4 cassette. Right. It's specifically a VHS cassette.
Speaking of VHSs, did you ever have any of the G.I. Joe VHS, like clamshells? Like they came in those giant clamshell packages?
No. That's awesome.
They issued the show, not like full seasons or anything, but it was like single episodes. So I had like Countdown for Zartan, and I had Satellite Down. I watched those 150 times, and I kind of never want to see Satellite Down ever again. Even we did it on the show, and it was great, but like I've seen it so much. So they reveal that they're going to bust into Fort Knox, and we're going to go to commercial.
G.I. Joe will return after these messages.
Today's Filecard Feature is on the G.I. Joe machine gunner Rock and Roll. File name Craig S. McConnell. His primary military specialty is the infantry. His secondary specialty is the PT instructor, and his birthplace is Malibu, California. He is a grade E5. Now, Rock and Roll was a surfer in Malibu prior to enlistment. He was a weightlifter and played bass guitar in local rock bands. Due to his affinity for music, Craig earned the nickname Rock and Roll and graduated at Advanced Infantry Training, top of the class, as well as Covert Ops School. His skills came to the notice of the newly forming G.I. Joe team, and he soon became one of its original members. He's familiar with all NATO and Warsaw Pact light and heavy machine guns, graduated AIT Fort Benning, top of the class. Here's an excerpt from his psychological profile. He's a man of contradictions, cunning but naive, obstinate but pliable, forceful but shy, proud but self-deprecating, and so on. Possesses a strong sense of loyalty to his teammates and is sincerely concerned about their well-being. This may have a profound detrimental effect on his performance in a team involved in high-risk operations. From his pure personality profile, he is a fine soldier, a man of honor and integrity, who can be counted on to hold the line. If he had any shortcomings, I would not tell you, nor would I expect him to tell you of mine. Rock and Roll's most distinctive trait was his great big blonde bushy beard. His figure came with the extremely long machine gun, probably the length of his body, and on the cartoon he was often portrayed as a surfer, like, hey dude, let's do this, blah 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 blah. Love Rock and Roll. Later on, they gave him this figure got an update with he had a nice hat, and he had like a double-barreled, body-mounted machine gun kind of thing. But what a great name for a machine gunner! What a fun character, surfer dude, who you would think is just want to be mellow, and all he wants to do is tear things up with his machine gun. Later on, he was supplanted a little bit by Roadblock because Roadblock's so cool. And they basically serve the same positions. So I always love when they did keep showing Rock and Roll and making sure he didn't fade from consciousness. And so, Rock and Roll, Craig S. McConnell, we salute you.
Now, back to G.I. Joe.
I'm just surprised that the plans for Fort Knox were on a VHS cassette tape. Like they put it in, and it was basically a guided tour of how you break into Fort Knox.
Yeah.
I imagine, like, can you imagine the like industrial video editing guy that put that together? Like, it's like HR video, sexual harassment training, and break into Fort Knox.
So halfway through the video, you see a couple guys walk up, goose a girl in the butt, and go, ooh la la.
That's right. And then all of a sudden, everybody freezes and goes, "Now, mind your secret tunnel. Do you know where the secret tunnel is?" There's going to be a quiz after the video.
I do hope that they pulled the little plastic tab on the VHS so that they don't record over it, because that would be terrible. Like, well, here's how we're gonna watch. Here's how we're gonna break into Fort Knox, and then it just cuts right to Super Bowl 13.
Follow me. I'll show you how much I need reinforcements.
We just had a really cool moment where the Joes were pulling up to Fort Knox because they're going to protect it now. And there was the line of trucks that they brought was massive. Like, there was APCs and Maulers and like Mobats and everything. Like, it was really cool. It was impressive.
But if you'll notice, this is the guy who's in charge of Fort Knox. He's, I don't know what he is, a general or colonel or something. And he's like, "Your services aren't needed. We don't need you, G.I. Joe. Look, I've got like 12 dudes standing around in the vault." Everything that we just saw in front of there, all the vehicles, everything else that Joe brought. He's like,
"No, I'm good.
No,
I'm good.
I don't need
look at this."
that.
And out of nowhere, a grate gets pulled, and the guy gets now. Unless he went to a different room, he was just standing in front of all his soldiers. And then he just got ripped down into an old tunnel, which, of course, the government never would think to seal.
Well, they're not allowed to move. They're like the soldiers at Buckingham Palace.
It's true. Yeah, they all saw it, and they looked at each other and like, he's a wanker. So he got kidnapped. Basically, the sergeant guy got kidnapped by Zartan and the Dreadnoks.
The buzz, Private.
So,
why are you leaving your post?
Wait a minute, Joe. Do you think that the next time we see him, it's gonna be Zartan?
Maybe. Zartan's been known to impersonate people every once in a while, and so he ordered the troops. He's also smiling and a nice guy now, so something's up. Oh, he didn't even.
There you go.
What's?
I kind of feel like that was the most useless use of Zartan.
He was in disguise for approximately a sentence and
they
a half.
asked him. Duke came up and he asked him. He goes, "Hey, what are you doing, man? You called off your guards." And he's standing there, Cobra, and just rips his
face off, face off, face off.
Zartan seriously did not go to the briefing.
No.
And we've got Destro back at the Cobra Temple going like, Zartan, looking at a clipboard. Totally phoned that in.
Totally did. And now it's just become, it goes from being some kind of covert mission to just an all-out assault. Just
Cobra brought some serious heavy air support for a secret tunneling mission.
That's what I'm saying. And the Joes have Sky Strikers. Of course, they're grounded, and they're getting gassed up, and the gas tankers explode. So Ace can't fly anywhere.
Apparently, Cobra has now destroyed every Sky Striker.
Yeah, because
in the Joe arsenal,
because protecting Fort Knox, Sky Strikers wouldn't actually be in the air, would they? They wouldn't be flying around. Maybe.
Well, I didn't realize that Fort Knox
defensive
had an
pattern.
airstrip either. But
I'm
fascinated by the fact that they're stealing. I don't even know what the market equivalent of the gold would be right now, but they're stealing whatever amount of gold. Yet they just blew up what's probably $100 billion worth of jet fighters outside that no one seems to give one damn about.
That is correct. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Stalkers joined the team. Stalker and Gung Ho, Mutt and Junkyard. They're all assaulting. There's Thunder and Cover Girl. Yeah, there's Zap. This is definitely early episode. A lot of green shirts. And the Cobra Troopers are moving the gold as slowly as humanly possible.
One brick at a time. Human chain style.
Yeah, human chain style. I feel like we saw this.
They've got the sergeant downstairs like tied up like Ned Beatty.
Totally Ned Beatty in Deliverance. This is the screenwriters for Die Hard 3 took a note from this.
Yeah, you can't exactly start it off in a rent-a-truck, can you?
No, they're going to take them across the Canadian border. They all have $2.75 in quarters in their pockets.
God, Cobra has such good branding. I just want to be recruited into the Cobra graphic design, like the Cobra Creative Services Department.
Right. There's a giant train. They're putting the gold on this giant train, which, of course, no one noticed before because it's painted to look like a huge snake. just a massive snake. Now,
It's so funny that supervillains always seem to be so ostentatious with their logos and branding. You'd think, like, in the real world, if there was a supervillain that was, like, running for president, he would just be ostentatious. He would put, like, his name, like, in gold all over stuff.
right, or always wear a hat with his slogan on it.
Or even not even a hat. It would be, like, some kind... Maybe he would have, like, some kind of helmet made of, like, hair or something. I don't even know.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, if you... That's ridiculous.
I know, it's really far-fetched. It's really stupid.
Come on. I mean, maybe they do that on, Cobra's candidate, Actually, so this episode it's similar goals to the one we just did, Money to Burn, where all the money was destroyed. So it's Cobra attacking the U.S. economy, which I think again those specific goals like that, those are always stronger episodes.
Poor man's wallet.
And G.I. Joe's playing catch up this whole episode. You're absolutely right. They walk in and all the gold's been stolen. Uh-oh. Junkyard's on.
Oh no, Junkyard's going Cujo.
Yeah. And of course they left the
No, look at this. He's totally like
He's-
where did Junkyard come from? Was he like
Whoa, Jesus. So Junkyard just broke Mutt's neck, throwing him down a open mine shaft.
After biting him in the leg.
Yeah.
He grabbed him by the leg and threw him down.
And he landed on the Deliverance colonel that was hiding down there. So the Joes are chasing them through
I like
this
calling him
tunnel.
the Colonel. We're just going to call him
Colonel.
the
Just
Colonel. We
call
don't
him
know
Colonel.
who he is.
Yeah, Colonel. Just Colonel.
They ain't good for much. No, can't eat 'em, can't drink 'em.
The Dreadnoks are debating on whether or not to kill the Joes, which I think is a debate that
I'm going to start using that logic. Can't eat them, can't drink them, can't spend them. Everything else I'm going to cut out of my life. That's going to be my new Buddhist philosophy. This has opened up my eyes.
Well, there's this theory of if it doesn't make you happy or if it doesn't make you rich, then don't let it bother you, kind of a thing. I feel like you're going down that route. If I can't eat you, I can't spend you, and I can't. What was the other one? Kill you, hunt you like the world's
Eat
most
your
dangerous
face.
game.
I'm not sure.
Drink 4 Loko and eat your face. So the train takes off and it is gone. Gung Ho is not able to catch the train, and
Which is a big shock that someone running on foot would not be able to catch the bullet
be
train.
in hot pursuit.
He's a terrifying enemy of G.I. Joe. Destro is his name. Destro is his name. American hero. Fighting evil Destro.
Introducing Destro.
You better watch out, Joe. Hey, what's going on? Destro's stealing our tank. We gotta stop him. We're gonna get you, Destro. You've met your match, Joe. Destro is here.
G.I. Joe Battle Tank comes with figure, other figures, and Destro sold separately from Hasbro. Now, back to G.I. Joe.
So now we're due for some hot train chase action, which train chases are always great. Like James Bond always had great train chases.
I feel like you're setting us up for failure, Joe.
It's not what's
I've always wondered, and I keep blanking on his name. The helicopter pilot, the
Wild
cowboy.
Bill.
Wild Bill.
Yeah.
Like, where did they get him? Because he just seems like a country morning DJ that he's
The best, right? Him and Cutter are the two dudes. They show up with their specific vehicle, and they just solve the problems. Like Wild Bill shows
he's
up.
basically a morning traffic guy. He's like, and what we've got down there, Joe, is it looks like we've got a little bit of traffic on the 405. We've got it backed up all the way back up to Sherman Oaks.
Train with horses? Not just any horses, son. You're looking at thoroughbreds.
So Thunder
Fastest in the world.
takes them to a. Okay, so
Thunder's
basically-
not the brightest.
So let's reset. All the Joe's vehicles were destroyed, so they say, "Let's go to a local ranch and borrow the horses." That's what's happening here, right?
Borrow, take
Steal, eminent domain.
eminent domain. That's
Eminent
what I said.
domain,
Eminent
yeah.
domain and cattle ranchers. And watch this. This is Joe being Cobra level inept. Nobody knows how to get on a saddle
Totally.
or stay on a horse.
That's ridiculous. I like to think that guy that we just saw was Hawk, because he was blonde and a green shirt. Remember, like Hawk. Remember, he started. I don't know if you know this. Hawk's the General Hawk. We had later on in the sweet bomber jacket.
Yeah.
He started out as a green shirt. The first line
Oh,
of
I
toys.
didn't
He was
know that.
packaged in with one of the weapons. And And then they actually promoted him like in the toys, so he was General Hawk then. And I like to think
Well, that's
that was
nice that they have some upward mobility.
Yeah, right. You listen. You join an organization. The first thing you ask is, "What's my room for growth here?" See, there's Wild Bill. He's just keeping an eye on the train. Wild Bill's the best.
Believe it or not, we're fast.
So we have one APC.
How are they going to catch a
Well, wait
200 mile per hour train?
Wait a minute.
Why do they have vehicles?
Okay, hold on. I love this show, but why do we have 5 horses, but we also still
This
have an
is where
APC
Frank
and
Miller
8
got the idea for Dark Knight Returns.
yeah. An APC can hold like 30 people. So there wasn't room for 4 more people. We had 12 horses maybe.
The train's going 200 miles per hour. I'm going to keep reminding everybody that until the horses catch up.
And look at Zartan. He's a certified engineer because he's not having any trouble driving this train.
I'm actually really surprised that Zartan is wearing his regular clothes and not wearing a little engineer's cap. And I mean, he's the master of disguise, for God's sake.
So they're going to straight up throw the Joes out the train to kill him. Snake Eyes goes first. Wow, they tossed him. And Scarlet.
No, I told you, Cobra has it down in this
Oh,
episode.
look at what Snake Eyes did. Look at what Snake Eyes did.
And
He
he's
caught
using the wheel on the train.
with his leg. Although, how did he get forward? I don't know. He should have been behind.
Dude, he's a ninja. He's a ninja.
That's true.
Did he just punch Scarlet in the face?
He caught the train with his feet and then used the wheel to get his rope loose. Rope loose. That's a proper grammar.
Well, that's something that Wild Bill would do on a Saturday night. I'm going to get my rope loose, Joes.
So
Y'all
now
coming with me?
The 3 Joes are loose and they're running on the train. Have you ever run on top of a train?
Well, I know that I was a carny, but no, it was a van, not a train.
See, this is exciting. This is a train chase. Train chases are always great. This is like the chase in Last Crusade, you know?
Yeah, actually, kind of.
There's horses involved.
And it predates it.
Predates it.
I feel like that ponytail would be a
Oh,
liability
wow.
at some point.
So the Joe, oh my God. The Joes stacked 3 APCs on the tracks to set up a train wreck. That's how they're stopping Cobra. I love it.
She's slowing down, boys.
It just slowed her
There's
down.
nothing that Wild Bill could have thrown or shot from his helicopter.
Yeah, because there's a lot of questions and the whys and the wherefores.
Well, that's why
you know what though? You know what? Well, okay. First, my thought would be Wild Bill wouldn't want to blow it up because he doesn't know.
Oh no, hold on! I've got to enjoy the sweet disco.
Yeah, well, the soundtrack's amazing.
This is amazing
because he
really
maybe didn't want to kill. He didn't know where Duke and Scarlet and Snake Eyes were. But then they just laid out APCs, and that's not good.
That's another $100 billion.
Yeah, right. So we got a good fight. Dreadnoks versus the Joes.
Oh, this is getting weird. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's cutting the thing. He's going to
cutting
crush the
struts 'cause
Joes with the gold.
Gold is heavy. Where the gold at, indeed. Zartan and Duke. Torch. Just trying to punch gung ho.
So what we're learning from this is that Cobra has vehicular superiority, strategic superiority, but they can't punch good.
Correct.
Merca.
I'd like to think it's because they haven't yet recruited Big Boa, the Cobra boxing instructor. And as soon as they get Big Boa on the team, Joe's better watch out.
Well, at least Cobra has like an HR department where they're actually looking for specific needs and gaps to fill in their skills.
That's true. That is true.
Once again, Destro.
He's all about that. Destro, and I would think the Crimson Twins would help that. So the train just wrecked, and everyone's staggering out. Zartan might be crippled. He just laying
left
there.
him for
They
dead.
left him laying for dead. He ranting his
It was
fist in the air.
that was very much like Batman Begins. Like, I don't have to save you. And they just walked away from a burning train with Zartan half hanging out of it.
You folks okay? I got a medical.
I would like to see Snake Eyes versus Batman. I would like to see that. I know someone did that fan film.
They just stole his. They just
Wait,
stole
no,
his
they stole
helicopter.
his helicopter.
That's his only vehicle.
Oh, Wild Bill, you had one job.
Well, at least we saved the gold. Which reminds me, General Stack owes us an apology.
General Stack, not Colonel. Shame on us. But General Stack's very appreciative, and there's Spencer Murphy, the rancher.
You'll get a medal for this, Mr. Murphy. I'd rather have my horses back, Joe.
Well, that's not happening.
Yeah,
They've
sorry.
been requisitioned.
Your horses have all died. I mean, think about how many horses died shooting that.
Well, it could have been worse. They could have stacked the horses to cause.
Think about how many horses died shooting that Dustin Hoffman HBO show, and that was a TV show. All these horses broke their legs. All of them. Every single one of these horses, they all died. Every single one of them. And Gung Ho rides off into the sunset.
Why is Gung Ho? Was he like, I'm late to a party?
He was like, I can't handle riding these horses anymore, and yet he doesn't realize he just left Duke there with no transportation.
Right.
So now Duke's got to call an Uber. Well, there you go, Dekker. G.I. Joe, Battle for the Train of Gold.
Always so cool.
So cool, right?
Much better than Karate Commandos or Kung Fu Commandos.
Oh, yeah, Chuck Norris and
Chuck
his Karate
Norris,
Commandos.
much
Yeah.
better.
Oh, G.I. Joe's
This is definitely the
dynamite.
Coke to their RC Cola.
Yeah. I mean, this was the height of this and Transformers, the height of storytelling in 80s cartoons. Absolutely. Although, did you ever watch Centurions?
Centurions. Was
was
that the
about
one
the-
with the holograms and the?
Well, the three dudes, they wore the exosuits, and they would have different components beamed down from the satellite
Yes.
and whatever they
Yes,
needed.
I do remember that. Yeah,
That was a cool show. That was a really cool show.
There was another. Really cool one too. Oh God, it was where they like went around in motorized dinosaurs, but it wasn't Wheeled Warriors.
Dino Riders?
It wasn't Dino Riders because those are cyborg dinosaurs. Those are different.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that one up.
Motorized
I got to dig
dinosaurs,
deep into
okay.
the archives.
I recently discovered King Arthur and then the Knights of the...
Oh, where each one has the power of
They
a
were-
certain animal.
Well, no, they were football players
Oh,
that were transported in time back to King Arthur's day. And
oh
it was
wow,
like
the fevered dream.
Yeah, it was like King. It's called like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round. It's not Knights of the Round Table though. And the football team was called like the Brooklyn Knights or something. And then they get transported back through time, and so they're the new Knights of the Round Table to help King Arthur put their football
I
players.
have never
And
heard
they all have. I
of
never
this
heard
or
of it
seen
either.
of it.
And I found a comic book of it, and I'm like, "What is this?" It was a Marvel published comic, and then I looked into it, and they had a cartoon, and it was on sale on Amazon for $8. I'm like, I'm going to own this.
Hot.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of CTE riddled football players running around with Merlin and King Arthur. Yeah, that's what it was. Dekker, thank you so much. This was really great.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and remember, you can find Dekker on Instagram at Dekker Dreyer, DekkerDryer. Clever Fox Productions. Clever Fox. What is that? Just Clever Fox?
Yeah, man. Just Clever Fox. We're loose like that.
Yeah.
You know, just casual.
And that's because you actually have a fennec fox, is that?
Yeah, I've got a fox.
He's super sweet. The fox is super
No,
adorable.
it's yeah, man. I don't know what anybody out there who doesn't know me or follow me on Instagram or anything like that thinks that this is the weirdest. Like, yeah, and I'm talking to Dekker today. We're watching some G.I. Joe. He's got a fox. His parents used to be puppeteers.
No,
you know?
you're one of the most fascinating and friendly and fun people that I've met out here, and I absolutely mean that. I would say that off mic or on mic. You're warm and welcoming and fascinating. You're always up to something fun. That's what I love about it. Every time I talk to you, you're like, oh yeah, we're shooting this at Red Rocks, or oh no, yeah, we're gonna do more movie cult. It's great, and frankly, it's inspiring. Your work ethic is amazing.
Thank you very much, but my work ethic is nothing compared to the good people of Joe that are keeping us safe day in and day out.
Well, that is true. And on that note, we're going to sign off. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.